Wafa here. Welcome to my channel. For those of you who don't know me, I am an ex-investment banker, ex-cubicle survivor, turned professional career and wellness coach and speaker. In this channel, I love talking about health and wellness, self-care, burnout prevention, and career transitions. If any of these sound good to you, make sure you subscribe to my channel to not miss any further updates on these topics. So in this video, I'm super excited to share with you the 5 things that led me to quit finance and how you can spot them and avoid them. Spotting these things will not only be relevant if you work in finance, but also if you work in any other field. So keep watching. Toxic thing number 1. Lack of proper training. When joining a new team, it's safe to say that it's normal to expect to be trained on at least the core pillars of your role. However, back in my banking days, when I joined a new team, I never really had any training, and none of my other colleagues as well. Everyone was just expecting us to just figure it out on our own. And while I do see the benefit of that, namely the fact that having to figure it out on our own makes us definitely much more resourceful, resilient, and it helps fast-paced our learning curve, there are some drawbacks. Without a lack of proper training, there's a lack of solid foundations to the role itself. People are just left to figure it out on their own and just replicate things that have been done in the past without asking themselves sometimes adequate questions, and that's it. Just people repeat patterns. If we want to have solid knowledge and skill set in one specific role, business line, or industry, it is always helpful to have proper training. And so when I started noticing that that was toxic behavior was that, so just to give you a little bit of context, and my team, they were, if I generalize, there were sort of 2 teams. Young professionals that had a visa to work there for many years, and those who didn't. And so basically I started noticing over time that managers spent a lot of their time answering questions from the people that had a visa to work there for a couple of years and completely avoided spending time with those who wouldn't be there for a long time because they didn't have a visa. And I thought that was so selfish and shady. To a certain extent, I understand that in a lot of teams, this is the consequence of having a lot of turnover. You get a lot of talent, there's a lot of turnover, so these people end up not staying for long. So then, managers and VPs are always presented with new faces. And so at some point, they stop trying to bond with the new hires. They stop investing emotionally and intellectually in them, and they just keep it to a minimum. To a certain extent, that does make sense. However, it's still not the right thing to do, because if you want a team to work well, and if you want to be a good manager, your point is not to just get the job done, but it's also to train talent and to sort of teach things, have a legacy out there. So focusing on the people who just have the visa to work there and forgetting about the rest does create a divide in the team. It leaves a lot of people frustrated, and it's just not sustainable in the long run. It's unhealthy. If you experience that in your team in any form, that's a red flag. Number 2, if you have a toxic manager who seems to really dislike you. Human relationships are complicated, and at the workplace, the best strategy is to focus on being respected and not liked. Wanting to be liked by everyone is a lost battle. You cannot control, right, who likes you and who ends up not liking you. However, it can get toxic really quickly when people who are supposed to mentor you and support you and have your back and, give you feedback and carry your performance review, when those people are the ones who not only dislike you, but give their best efforts to show it to you. There's so many negative impacts to that. Number 1, it completely fractures the relationship and the dynamic in the team. The manager is the one that is supposed to teach you, train you, mentor you, support you, help you level up essentially and grow as a professional. And there's supposed to be a relationship of trust in between you and your manager, your boss. If that person clearly shows you that they don't like you, there's a huge divide there. There's a huge gap. It completely breaks the dynamic Therefore, it becomes a hostile environment for you as a professional to grow, learn, and perform well. Second thing is it really can negatively impact our mental and emotional health, because when that person tries to show you in many sneaky ways that they dislike you, maybe because they're jealous of you, maybe because they just disapprove of the way you work, or because you just rub them the wrong way, that's another level. Not liking someone is okay, you can still professional, but if you go out of your way to show them that you don't like them, either by saying something nasty or not showing up where you were supposed to show up, or showing these subtle signs here and there, that's a little bit abusive. And it can take a toll on our mood and how we feel and how safe that working space can feel. So if you experience that right now at your job, if you have a boss or a manager that goes out of their way to show you that they dislike you, that's a red flag. Run away or see what you can do to make that situation better for you. And number 3, isolation. Every time we apply for a new job, one of the first skills that every company demonstrates is we have a strong team spirit, and we want all of our hires to demonstrate that skill. And so you can expect that in every professional interview you have, virtually you will be asked, tell me how you've demonstrated strong team spirit in your past experiences. But what about if the team itself doesn't demonstrate that skill? That's an issue. When you join the team, you think that, everyone will bond, everyone will be there for each other. Some people will be able to stay late to help out others. Some others will be here to help if anyone has questions. And then when you need them the most, no one is there. I often talk about how back in my day in finance, I worked in teams where I would easily spend the whole day without talking to a single human being in that company. And it's not because I didn't want to, it's because nobody just interacted with each other. We would just sit at our desk for 12 hours plus, just work, and talk to each other through email or chat like robots. That's it. There would not be any human face-to-face interaction. That was, of course, before COVID. That could take a toll on our emotional health, but also our spiritual health. As I always like to share, humans are social animals, and so we really thrive on connecting and bonding with each other. Spending days on end without talking to a single individual, especially in a working environment where we spend 10 hours plus, is unhealthy in the long run. It's not okay. For a team to work well together, sure, they have to reach their KPIs and perform really well, but a good team is also a team that bonds together. Of course, no one expects a whole team to be best friends. However, I believe that a healthy working environment is an environment where you can safely grab lunch with one of the seniors, grab lunch with a VP, grab lunch with an analyst, and if you don't really get along with your peers, at least your seniors must lead by example and make an effort to reach out and make sure that all of their managees, if that's a term, are heard. They feel like they're seen and like they matter. And that's why it's really important at least to check in once a week. If you feel isolated and like no one truly cares to get to know you or spend a little bit of time with you, perhaps it is time to search for a new opportunity where you'll be valued for who you are. Number 4, no mentoring. I've interviewed a global chief marketing officer in New York City. Watch our career conversation in the link above this video in the info card. And the interview we've done together where she shared her story and her career tips, she told me how it was truly important for her as a senior executive and a manager to really build up her team. She really makes sure that she understands what are the goals of that individual and the company, what's their long-term vision, what's their short-term vision, what do they expect from her as their manager, to make sure that they have this mutual understanding of what is expected of each other. And she shared how important it is for her to know that from the get-go, because when she hires someone, when she brings someone into the team, she really makes sure that yes, she expects them to perform and work really well and give their best. However, she also understands that she also is expected to take part in that relationship. She is expected to help them develop and learn and grow as professionals and help shape their career. And I believe it's the job of every manager, every boss out there, is to at least contribute to the smallest extent to the development of their trainee or their juniors and their employees. So if you feel like your manager, your boss, spends more time trying to tear you down or just simply doesn't care about you instead of helping building you up, at least in the smallest way possible, maybe it's time to leave. That's a red flag. Number 5, substance use. Yep, I've said it, this is a very taboo topic, but you know what? Let's talk about it. In finance, but I'm sure in many other fields out there, some people just play with substance use. Back in my banking days, I've experienced working around people who did play with substance abuse, and it was uncomfortable to be around because nobody did anything against it, nobody said anything, and I truly had a feeling where it was secretly condemned but also secretly approved, in a sense that as long as it helped boost performance, it was fine and it was not their problem. So 1, it made it extremely uncomfortable, 2, was unethical, and 3, it's extremely unfair, because how are you expected to compete with someone who, because of the enhancements, performs so well that they virtually don't need to sleep, they don't need to eat, they don't need to do anything to just work. All they do is work. And you're there and you have your basic needs, right? You need to hydrate, you need to eat, you need to sleep to be sane. And how are you expected to perform against that? So I truly remember a huge breakdown moment where I thought, listen, if I want to be successful in that industry, I either need to leave because I need my hours of sleep. I don't need 12 hours of sleep, but I can't function with 4 or 2. Or I need to jump on that wagon too and deal with substance. And that was a no-no for me, never. So it really created a value clash. And when you get to that point, when you start asking yourself, hey, should I conform to that? That's a huge red flag. So if you experience environments where you have to be surrounded by that, perhaps it is time to leave and shift environments. Here's a little disclaimer. Talking about this here, there's absolutely no judgment whatsoever against people who do experience substance abuse. If you know someone that's in that situation, make sure you reach out to a licensed doctor, therapist, reach out as well to the HR and any other licensed professional to help that person get professional treatment and help to get better. Number 6, favoritism. That could mean a lot of different things. The case that I'm specifically thinking about right now is situations where you work really hard and you give it your all. However, at the end of the day, your efforts are completely overlooked. You feel unrecognized, undervalued, and at the end of the day, your efforts are not taken into account. So when it's time for you to get a promotion or get a recommendation to work somewhere else, no one is there. No one is answering the line. Your managers are completely ignoring you. They overlook all the efforts that you've done, all the hours that you've put in, and they just make excuses or just sort of belittle you and all of your efforts. That hurts. When that happens, that hurts. I've had a lot of clients who felt that way, and when it was time for them to get something out of the deal, they were left hanging. And that can break someone, because what happens is often sharp professionals, what they do is they don't say anything from the get-go. So they would feel like they're not getting enough feedback, they're not being praised enough, they're not being recognized, but they would think that it's because they're not doing enough. So then what happens is they work more and more and more, and they do that for weeks, months on end, perhaps even years. And weeks, months, years down the line, when they need something, a promotion or a recommendation, a formal recommendation to get another job somewhere else, a job that they very much want, they're left hanging. And at that point, it can be really brutal after all those weeks, months, years of hustle and hard work and expecting a return. Not having that return, that can break someone. So pay attention. If this is you, make sure that you have a conversation with your managers, with your seniors, to get the feedback you deserve, ask the right questions, and inquire about how you're performing, what can be improved, what's going really well, what should be kept as is, and, ask for opportunities in the future. And that goes back to my point. Do you have a manager or a boss that is here to build you up, or are they just there to use you? Of course, when we talk about toxic behaviors and toxic work environments, there are a plethora of other behaviors. I didn't mention them in detail here because thankfully I personally didn't experience them back in my banking days. Those toxic traits are those that I personally observed. These are based on my personal experience and those of my clients as well. I'm not making any generalization about people in finance and corporate people in general. If any of these toxic traits that I shared in this video resonate with you, please know that you're not alone. Please know that there are many other professionals out there that experience the same thing, and that it has nothing to do with you specifically. And if you feel unhappy because of any of these toxic traits, perhaps it is time to seriously consider a career shift. Click this screen to watch interviews of other senior professionals who have dared to shift careers and who now live their best life. Please stay tuned for an upcoming video in which I will share 7 reasons to quit your current job and 7 reasons to stay in your current job. See you there. Bye.